Welcome back, everyone, to our Saturday broadcast, the North American LCS. I'm David FLICKR, and joining me is my better three-quarters, Joshua Jat-Leesman. We hit fist bumps. We're awesome. Coming up right now, we've got a showdown between Counterlogic Gaming and Echo Fox. Now, Echo Fox looked actually pretty dominant in their early game against Team Liquid last weekend and almost shut them out, but despite getting a huge lead, they had 3 inhibs, they had 4 dragons, they had 11 kills, they couldn't close the game out.
Yeah, and it's really hard to bounce back from a game like that, actually, because it was so obviously winnable. But since Echo Fox is a new team and these players are still on their second game on the team, they should just focus on their bright spots. Keith got out to a huge lead. Their temporary substitutions also played very well, so Echo Fox should hope to build on that this game.
And we'll see if they can keep building up in this game against CLG, because Counterlogic Gaming are coming into this one, honestly, really, really strong. They have had some inconsistencies, but they are a pretty good team.
Yeah, and so far as the inconsistencies are concerned, Huhi has been really hit or miss. He was CLG's kill leader last Saturday, going 8-0-5 as Corki versus Team Liquid, but then the next day, he kind of disappeared against Jensen and Cloud9. And the good thing for this is CLG, they still have strong macro play to fall back on, but the early game weaknesses, they've cost them a few games so far.
Yeah, you're seeing 2 of these rookies that are having, slower ramp-ups in some of these cases. Either way, we're going to hear from Aframu on what CLG needs to shore up in their early game.
Once we get to fights, then that's when, we thrive. With that being said, what we do need to work on besides that is everything leading up to that point. So it'd be like vision control, as we're preparing to set up for the objective play. Usually it's myself and Smithy that do this, since we're the jungle support. Usually we have struggles in that area. As soon as we're walking in to get wards, and maybe someone will die on our team, which is unfortunate. Maybe we're too slow or too fast. So I would say that's what we would have to work on.
So I like that his first answer was basically everything aside from team fighting. So, and it's nice to be a harsh critic on yourself, because it means you will always look at a lot of things to improve upon, and it can make that road really fast. And we'll see how good CLG looks in this game, because it's time to check out the starting lineups. On the blue side is that team of Counterlogic Gaming. Darshan is up in the top lane. He's been there for a while now. Smithy in the jungle. Maybe half that reason they have no good vision. Stixxay is their AD carry, but for him is Huhi. Sorry, I'm a little bit ahead of myself. In the mid lane, now we get Stixxay up at AD carry, one of the rookies here on the roster. Aframu on support we just heard from. And that's Counterlogic Gaming.
Yeah, and going up against them here on the red side with the orangish red jackets is Echo Fox. We got Solo subbing in the top lane. Grigney in the jungle here. He had a good start to the game, just needs to be able to finish. Golden Glue in the mid lane. Then we have, of course, Keith, who started the game 10-0 on AD carry, and their support big.
So Echo Fox coming in, hoping that their spirits are high enough to kind of bounce back from a fairly rough loss to Team Liquid, but also understanding that, look, their early game is pretty darn good, and if they can make that happen again, if they can, get a bunch of good dives in a lane swap, just, close the game out a little bit better this time around. And I feel like you can feel pretty good coming in this week as Echo Fox.
Yeah, it's tricky when you are 1-3, and you also had to take one of those losses as a forfeit loss, but because they've played well in-game and they know this is an 18-game season that they are only 4 games in on, there is a lot to look forward to.
We'll see how much they can do. Of course, based on the earlier results, Counterlogic Gaming can end the day tied for second if they can show up at 3-2 here. That's a pretty good place to start out the first quarter of your season.
Yeah.
We go through picks and bans. Poppy off the field, Tom Kench away as well. And I think it's actually a good idea to ban top lane tanks when you have a very dominant top laner yourself, so that you can go play FLICKR and kill everything.
We also added to the fact that Darshan hasn't really wanted to play tanks, and CLG is perfectly okay tailoring strategies around that. But in doing so, we're getting a lot of the top lane bans. It's like, you're going to ban away the tanks? Okay, well then we're going to ban away your carries. FLICKR is one of the few that can actually just beat carries as well as have good matchups against squishies, but it's also not the type of champion you see first pick that often. So really a curious pick and ban phase coming in so far.
Yeah.
The Poppy ban makes the most sense because that champion has exploded in popularity across pretty much every competitive league. Absolutely. And we're seeing why in almost every game she gets through.
Yep. And one interesting thing I see as well is Counterlogic Gaming banning the Graves for themselves. Because Graves, of course, can work well in the top lane, which would be a good Darshan pick. And, of course, he's a very strong jungler. Though Smithy's style has tended to be more towards playing the tanks. So CLG kind of playing their types of compositions. Interestingly, banning the blue side Graves despite being a very strong pick.
Yeah, it's true.
Prompts Echo Fox to ban away Lulu, which means Kalista is the first pick for CLG.
Yeah, and we have seen the first pick Kalista from a number of teams because it synergizes so well with pretty much any support, especially Alistar, which is a favorite of Afromu. But when you first pick Kalista, especially without any other major AD carry bans, it kind of feels like you're just picking for comfort and overall team composition flexibility.
Yeah.
Since a Kalista Alistar lane brings CC in, that gives you maximum flexibility in other roles, but it's not so much a power pick, so to speak, of what you'd be ban contested with.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people are really looking to pick flex picks early on in drafts so that they can fill out their compositions in many more different ways, which is kind of what Kalista does. It sort of makes your support always very flexible because they can do anything now.
Exactly. Kalista will always be played in the AD carry position, but it opens up the most options for the other positions, which in turn, she's not a flex pick, but she creates flexibility.
She creates flexibility, which, you know, when you're hopping all the time, just kind of makes a lot of sense. Either way, Alistar does get picked up here for Echo Fox, one of the most highly prized supports there, as well as the Elise, which will be a partial steal from McSmithy, but also a good champion for Brittany here.
Yeah.
So they got a front line. They've got plenty of engage tools. We talked about Kalista being flexible because of being able to bring that. Well, Echo Fox already has it, so they can just grab damage elsewhere.
And I think it's just really good denial. Alistar is Kalista's best friend as far as being able to engage fights. Not that Kalista doesn't work good with other supports, so now we get to see CLG's hand here. I think the Fiora would make a lot of sense for Darshan, even picked blindly, because Lysandra and Poppy, two of the matchups, and even Tom Kench, honestly, three of the matchups that would be most likely to be picked against her are already impossible to pick because of the bans.
So it's going to be the pick right away. All right, we know Rek'Sai is in the jungle. They're saving the support pick for later because there's no rush to get to that champion. But this does mean now that Echo Fox can counter-pick both solo lanes. They have not shown what solo's going to play, so they can make sure he likes his matchup into Fiora, and then they can save that last pick for something they're going to like playing into Huhi. CLG's composition brings flexibility, but their positions are not flexible themselves. Yeah. See if Echo Fox feels good about their next few pickups.
And it will show the entire purpose of the Echo Fox composition.
Yeah.
Because Alistar and Elise fit into most team comps. The only thing they need to make sure they bring is damage, because they have pretty heavy utility in the support and jungle roles already. Maybe they'll just get even more utility.
More utility. How about just making everyone's setup Keith to do a whole bunch of damage as one of the few starters on the roster, and it's going to be, ooh, a last-second switch over to Ezreal. That seemed like he wasn't sure quite what he wanted to do. He thought Vayne was going to be it, but says, no, Ezreal's going to work on after all. This team can kite back quite well, and I mean, they've got so much crowd control.
And while most of Trundle's pick worldwide has been his support role thus far this season, this will be the second top lane Trundle we've seen in North America today. Yeah, Impact just saw him, ended up getting ganked very early, was unable to have a large influence in the game. But here, Solo will be part of a very, very CC-heavy team. Trundle is, once you get some cooldown reduction on the pillar, can use that every 8 seconds or so. And then every Ezreal we've seen, bottom lane, has been going Iceborne Gauntlets. So it's a very kitey team, which might be good to use against CLG, who generally has been trying to split push people and then collapse on flank engages. So if Echo Fox could kite properly, maybe they're looking to shut that down.
And we'll see just how good their gank's going to be in these various lanes. Of course, top lane, you've got a Trundle pillar. That could do very good things for you. Bot lane, you've got Alistar, Ezreal. And meanwhile, CLG picks up the rest of their lineup. Support Morgana comes in. As much as Alistar is Kalista's best friend, I think Morgana's her second best friend there, because it's just easy to trigger the W passive. Tossing her right into Soul Shackle's range is great as well. And if Aftermove's on his mechanics, can Black Shield Biggs engages on this Alistar. Meanwhile, Corki mid coming back in for Huhi's one of his best performances this year has been on that Corki, so gonna join that role again, and it's, oh look, double mark spin with 2 tanks, but with a split pusher here as CLG's comp.
Go back to what works. I'd say it's probably 1 tank with xMithy, so it'll be interesting to see how heavily he gets focused down.
Oh, right.
Also, it's also Aftermove's 5th support in 5 games, by the way. Playing a lot of variety in that position, but ultimately I do like this choice from CLG. This is a team composition that CLG would run, not necessarily something anyone else would run, but it's right in their wheelhouse of being a split pusher on Darshan, wave clearance safety throughout, and a playmaker on Afromu. It's kind of the 3 recipes for a CLG team comp, just different champions fill those roles every time.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see which teams want to play their style, which teams are going to follow the popular styles. We've seen so many triple poke plus double tank lineups. Not the case for either of these 2 teams here, as we grab Victor as the last champion for Golden Glue. So a huge front line with this Trundle and Alistar here, and then it's largely on Golden Glue and Keith to do the damage from the back. And we'll see how well Solo can match up against Darshan, but these lineups are in, and Echo Fox feel good about all of their matchups because they got to pick them second every single time.
I agree. Echo Fox always had the choice, and Cop, when at least he was the coach of Gravity last year, was really high on counterpicking and mind games. So being able to get the counterpicks for his draft has got to feel pretty good. And Echo Fox would have what I'd call a traditional or standard team composition, which always gives you the flexibility to play where you want and can hopefully have played well, kind of contour to counter whatever anyone else is bringing. And CLG also got what they wanted, so 2 pretty solid drafts.
All right, and we'll see just which of these comps can then persevere because we're getting ourselves into the game, and now it's up to how they play them. And so as we wait to see how that happens, you guys at home should join in and tweet at Esports and use hashtag CLGwin or hashtag FoxWin to let us know who you think's going to win this one. Right now, the teams sit at 2-2 for CLG, 1-3 for Echo Fox. So the scores look similar, but this is going to be a tough test, I think, for Echo Fox. Tomorrow they play Immortals. Today they play Counter Logic Gaming. How well can they rebound off that Team Liquid loss, and how high can CLG reach as they take on Echo Fox here in their first game of the week?
Yeah, early choice of Corruption Potion so far for Hootie. That's a pretty standard solo lane Corki move, only because of the early mana constraints that Corki could have using Phosphorus Bomb, but also not wanting to go with something like a Doran's Ring, since that's not in the core build whatsoever.
Not as much.
So you can get some harass out early.
Already off into the battle. Look at this.
Double Thunderlords.
And Hootie finally chugged Corrupting Potions, so much damage dealt.
Well, I wonder if he's going to recall before that, because
He should.
Yeah, burning a Corruption Potion stack early would not be wise, but because he recognizes Golden Glue is kind of pushed back a bit, CLG is using that to begin their invade.
Yeah, he still has 7 seconds to recall and not miss even attacking minions on time. This is a pretty typical CLG invade. The mid laner goes to the mid lane, spots them.
Kill the ward.
Really smart by Echo Fox. Yeah, so like I said, typical CLG invade means you know what that invade looks like. They kill one of the wards, and now these guys can determine how to play their lanes.
At a certain point, CLG gets too comfortable running the same strategy over and over again, and teams will do their research into how you start. We already know kind of the skeleton that is a CLG team composition, and if they're going to be using very similar level 1s each game, teams will start to block that. Because they're able to kill that ward, that opens up Echo Fox's ability to really send whoever they want in which lane, and CLG not be able to react to it immediately. So the initial edge of CLG's composition that they may have gained is lost, since they don't get to see the Elise and the Trundle walking through what was a killed ward.
And so, yeah, you got to see now how these lanes end up matching up. But right now, it's both teams just simply starting their duo lanes on a Gromp, both teams starting their jungle top laner on the red buff side of their own jungle. Although Echo Fox went Krugs into red, whereas looks like not quite the same start there for Counter Logic Gaming. To touch on the CLG 1 strategy point, watching NA LCS yesterday, they quoted Perks as saying, the G2 mid laner, saying, if your team can only run one style, you're a bad team. And that being able to get countered easily via prediction is a weakness. So just wanted to bring up that tidbit.
It's tricky, though. CLG they are still the defending North American LCS champions, and most of the year, they just perfected the lane swapping so hard that it was variant enough, and they weren't necessarily running the same strategy. I think it's a this season thing. While the skeleton is the same, the strategies are different for a lot of the CLG team compositions, and they're always trying to be flexible with the counter picks, even if it still fits into the same archetype. All right.
CLG so far 2-2 with this mold, and we'll see if they can improve that to 3-2 here. Solo joining his duo lane as we are in a lane swap. He missing the cannon sadly, but otherwise doing okay for himself. He's missed 3 CS in the 3 waves, and it's going to be worse for Golden Glue. Similar lane swap situation for Counter Logic Gaming. Darshan has joined the team, level 1 for himself, as Smithy continues to farm, as does Grigny. So very, very, very similar situations. Echo Fox will kill this turret first, but it should be answered in time by CLG, and
yeah,
no major differences.
Unless this turns into one of those giant games of chicken where they take turrets all the way down to the inhibitor, one-wave time difference won't matter much, but because there was a full one-wave time difference, Echo Fox is looking to press this advantage. They're trying to force recalls down immediately. Let's see how much damage they can get on this bottom turret.
Yep, Darshan, the only guy staying in the lane, and even he wants to walk back, and he builds the partial freeze. He's going to recall as soon as he can. Push in for Huhi on Golden Glue. Of course, he knows he's safe, and yeah, I want to see this bottom lane tier 2 health because it's still getting attacked by this Echo Fox lineup, and look at that. You're a wave sooner, and look at all this damage you get done. Now, it might not kill the turret, but that will not regen.
Right. If Echo Fox can return to take down that turret, then they will see gains. But if not, they actually see an opportunity cost of that damage. They had a longer period of time before they decided to swap lanes, so now they're actually behind the tempo at the moment. Darshan has had a freeze in the top lane for an extra wave or two, and he will now be ahead of Solo. As far as CLG's overall game plans go, that's exactly what CLG manipulates the early game to do, is so that Darshan can get an early game edge, and by giving up that turret damage, that essentially bought time for Darshan to get free farm.
And you can see that that manifests in a, for now, 400 gold lead. A lot of that is just the number of minions on the map for each side, but CLG up 11 minions in the mid lane. Huhi, I don't think even wanted to kill the big raptor there. It's just purely him getting 30 gold from killing those small things and walking back up. Also makes his stats look way better, so Huhi inflating his CS at 10.
Cheater.
Some would say unfairly.
Yeah, and this is the tempo. Look at how far CLG is ahead now in experience in pretty much every lane. Especially top lane is where we're going to see the biggest difference, as Solo is taking Krugs while Darshan is pushing the wave into the turret. If CLG was even further ahead of the game here, Xmithy would already be positioning himself to try and get a dive onto Solo, since this experience will rubber band back when that big wave eventually hits the turret.
Yeah, but this temporary advantage is here, and Solo will be around. There is a pink ward from Echo Fox on their red buff, and that gave them the safety enough to feel like, yeah, we're not getting dived, we should be okay. 2v1 under the turret should be pretty hard. Nice combo lands. 6A taking a lot of damage. One turret shot, I believe, was part of that as well. They hit right back on Keith, getting him to half health.
Yeah, that really hurts CLG's plans right there, because Xmithy was hoping to get behind that turret and get a dive in, but he is warned, actually, by the smite on the Wolf Camp that Ghost is walking around and tracking towards Xmithy.
Yeah.
And I just kind of point out, lane swapping is such a precise series of decisions, and as spectators or even as casters, it's easy for us to see what is going on because we get total vision of the map, but it is terrifying playing in a lane swap in games like this, and a lot of guesswork actually does happen. For instance here, an optimal play for CLG would have been to have Xmithy in the top lane to stop the turret from hitting and allowing Solo to get experience, which is what CLG was playing on, because they actually thought that then Grigney would be there to defend it. Therefore, Xmithy should actually go bottom lane to try another dive. These are all decisions that you have to make as a team in a few seconds.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're too late and the decision doesn't matter.
It's so incredibly fun and complex, because then even then your decisions are made 30 seconds in advance of what's actually happening on the map. Because as you're mentioning, right, expecting Grigney to be there, you're just now playing on blind decisions that your opponents are making, and then it continues to evolve from there, and it's all kinds of fun to look about and analyze and everything. Said and done, 300 gold difference, bot lane crashed in the turret, got reset, Keith pushed it back down alongside Big, and you know, we're kind of in our matched lanes once again with small advantages based on mostly who he outlaning Golden Glue significantly.
Yeah, and it's turning into a big advantage as well. He was able to get a nice recall in to buy a Sheen and a longsword to go with his corruption potion, and a large portion of this wave is going to crash into the turret already. So this is becoming a gargantuan CS lead. You very rarely see a mid lane matchup that is nearing 30 CS at this point in the game. Golden Glue will be able to clear up a lot of this with the laser since he has upgraded his Hex Core now. So really, if you equalize the waves, it's still around a 25 CS advantage, which is pretty big.
Exactly. 25 CS lead when the wave died away. Now Darshan is going to realize that there are 3 people in his lane, and that could be a bit scary. It does give Dragon control over to CLG, but Echo Fox are hitting the turret first and with more people. CLG actually roaming up to defend this with 3. You see both Xmithy and Huhi on the way up. They find Grigney, though. Level 5 only on the Elise. Pushed down to 400 health.
Big amount of damage, and Huhi had the freedom to roam since he has lane control. Meanwhile, this could end up being this turret lead for CLG, mainly because Huhi was able to lend aid to push Elise off. It eliminated whatever numbers advantage Fox would have in the top lane and kept the 1v0 numbers advantage for Stixxay in the bottom lane, which leads to the turret lead.
And good job. So mid lane lead snowballing over as well as just a good catch. And all is well for Counter Logic Gaming, now even taking a blue buff away. So the extended lane swap game when it comes down to actually making the decisions and playing it right, outside of just the textbook, well, we've seen this in a VOD before. CLG doing a great job showing that they, of course, remain a great lane swap team. Blue buff steal goes successfully, and they should still even get Xmithie to take their own. So,
and it's exactly what CLG should be doing against Echo Fox, especially this iteration of Echo Fox. They have 2 substitute solo laners in Solo and Golden Glue, a jungler who joined the team last week with Grigney, and CLG as a team has been together for, I mean, if we count Stixxay and Huhi kind of being involved in team compositions, a long time. Huhi for a year and Stixxay for at least 3 or 4 months. Their rotations and communication, and not even the communication, but just the innate knowledge of where to go in a lane swap, since decisions have to be instantaneous. You can see CLG is clearly cut above of Echo Fox here. 2,000 gold just from swapping back and forth in 10 minutes.
Yeah, the extra turret especially just really rings true to how this even happened. So beautiful stuff so far by Counter Logic Gaming. You're seeing the individual gold beneficiaries of all this. You've got a 700 gold lead for Stixxay because he got solo turret gold. You're seeing Huhi with an 800 gold lead as well, 900 even. Of his laning prowess here, and now the push in towards Stixxay. There's the arcane shift. The point-blank flash binding. Not a chance for Keith.
That was actually so smart from Aphromoo, because Keith was waiting for the 0.15 second cast animation, and more importantly, the travel time of the Dark Binding in order to flash away reactively. But typically, human reaction time doesn't go below 0.2 seconds, so since Aphromoo flashed and immediately bounded, unless Keith was predicting it, it's humanly impossible to get away from this Dark Binding, because it's point blank, 0.15 second cast time.
He's waiting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit flash. Oh,
right?
What the?
There's no way Keith can reactively flash that due to biology. So nice kill there by CLG.
Biologically impossible. That's the term I like to use right here. Yeah, great play by Aphromoo. Even if he did, you just like ult him and like he probably dies regardless. But
yeah,
beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff here. Xmithie pushing in, used the Krug buff, got some damage down onto it. The red buff, of course, ticks on the turrets as well. And it's so dangerously close to dead. But of course, CLG are patient here. There's no rush in killing this turret just yet. They will get it when they actually want it. Darshan sent to a very long lane there with both outer turrets already dead on that bot side. And you may see Xmithie show up there some point later.
Turning into a pretty healthy lead for CLG. Golden Glue is really getting crushed in this mid lane, and this is completely beside the rest of the CLG performance. And we mentioned how Huhi has been a hit or miss player. This is a big hit for him this game. He doesn't get the credit for the turret kill, but that was basically all Huhi before CLG rotated down. A near 40 CS advantage over Golden Glue with Corki. And Corki is a tremendous mid laner, that's why we see it banned in a lot of regions, but still great play.
And Grigney, oh, not taking enough damage to die. Ignite on, not going to kill him either, but CLG just continue to accrue incremental advantages. This game is 1 kill to 0, 12 minutes in, but CLG are constantly knocking Echo Fox back and getting farther and farther ahead. Now bot lane tier 2 under fire. Xmithie over on the wall, so you can always jump across with the tunnel. And there's a flash pulverize. They really want Stixxay. A lot of damage being dealt. Now can they do enough to kill him off? It's close, but he flashes away to safety. Aphromoo survives as well, and already a kill picked up thanks to the grand challenge of Darshan. They've actually managed to heal up quite a bit. CLG get a kill, get away.
Yeah, and honestly, that just has to do heavily with CLG's gold lead and preparedness for that fight, because we were just talking about reaction times. Big gave Stixxay as little time as possible to react by pulverizing and then flashing instead of flash pulverizing, so the instant he flashed on top of him, the pulverize hit. So that's why he was able to get him back in the turret so quickly. But he had both summoners up. They didn't have a clean CC chain afterwards, and CLG had more people there to ultimately pick up the kill.
Beautiful stuff. And Counter Logic Gaming continuing to push their lead. And look at the numbers here. It's nearly 5,000 gold. And only 1,000 of that is the 2 kills. Like, that is entirely from their macro play, from their turret kills, from their minion farm. And it's getting rough quickly for Echo Fox here. Now, there is some time as CLG had to recall and heal back up. These guys are going to push in for the dragon. And they may kill it before CLG shows up, but can they leave before they do? And they realize the answer is no.
Big has pretty good flank position if they want to go for something.
But Stixxay in, but the cocoon's not going to land. They do, however, nearly kill off Aphromoo, who is ulted back in to stay alive. And here comes the push back in. Aphromoo does go down, but there's still the ability to push into Echo Fox, who he jumps right forward. Big headbutts him away. Darshan will still get stunted, not quite riposte at the right time to account for how long that would take. Kootenai repelling to stay alive as best he can, but Smithy's on the hunt.
Yep, I think it'll be an extended 1-for-1 here. It's just a matter of how far you can extend this play for. Yeah, Hui should be in position to take this kill as well, which is ideal for CLG.
There it is. Even got a crit at the end of it all, so 320 damage dealt there. And Hui doing very well for himself now. 126 CS, well, 2 of the 3 kills for his team. And very dominant. It looks like his previous Corki game where he nearly single-handedly took the game over. And now CLG forcing Echo Fox back can just take this Dragon uncontested. You're seeing that even under the best of intentions, Echo Fox just can't get enough done. CLG are always reacting in time and taking what they need.
Echo Fox had a nice flank there from Big, but they had started the Dragon. They were halfway between finishing it and not finishing it. And I think the only kill in this fight, we'll notice Aphromoo throwing himself in at low health. I don't think Aphromoo knew how low he was when he gets thrown back in there. All the CC hits him. He's at about 50 health. So this is not worth the knock-up at the time.
And he didn't ult either. He could have just tagged it for the slow and the 200 damage per target. He just I'll just walk away.
And the self-heal from Morgana's spell vamping passive.
Would have gotten, 30 health back or something. It would have been a ton, but heck, you might as well press the button.
Either way, it's now 5,000 gold lead.
Yeah.
Making the next fight even more dangerous. And Echo Fox doesn't even get the small bonus of picking up the Dragon. You would think with all the rotations that CLG has been doing, a lot of times teams will kind of sacrifice early game wave pressure for a Dragon, and the team that is losing the early game wave pressure game will realize the other team is splitting up so much and just group really quickly for the Dragon to hope maybe they win team fights later down the road. It's just at the moment that Echo Fox grouped around Dragon, CLG also grouped, and Echo Fox really didn't gain any meaningful advantage off of it. Kind of makes it bad doors.
Yeah, it really does. They never got the general opportunity got for that one. Now Solo versus Darshan, already going to trigger all 4 vitals, so Darshan's going to be full health before too long, but you're seeing just a stats battle. Solo getting a lot back, but then realizing, okay, well, his ult timed out, no more healing left to get. Darshan easily winning the duel, and this is what happens you're ahead as Fiora. 2 full items already done. Not too hard.
Yep. Tough life as Trundle when you lose a stats war. That champion is basically a giant troll of stats.
Yep.
So once he loses with his ultimate on, not many more options.
Not a lot left. Well, here we go, Aphromoo. Proper tanking. Make sure that someone's always in the right spot to hit the eye.
Who are they going to give it to? Kobe was talking about this.
Yep.
Yeah, the jungler.
Oh, look at that. Leave it to Kobe's old team to give it to the jungler.
Yeah, Kobe made a lot of arguments about why the Rift Herald can be good on a jungler. Move speed, clear speed. If he gets a gank off, easier to push a lane. As Darshan. Actually, he's in a lot of trouble.
Ooh, cocoons it. Flashes the cocoon, rather. I don't know if her post was down or he just didn't want to use it because he just needed to flash it away anyway, but Darshan gets some turret damage, walks away with a flash gone, but guess what? CLG already have a ton of people top lane. Smithy buffing up the minions in the top lane with that Rift Herald buff, and this turret going to go at least down to half. And Stixay, you notice, hits the turret while Black Shield is on. Big can no longer go for a pulverized flash play, and Aphromoo can completely prevent that ever happening as long as they leave before Black Shield runs out.
Yeah. Just the one time they kind of caught CLG off guard by getting the pulverize onto Stixay, just eliminate that possibility, and Stixay gets to play safe. Look how fast he is with that Rift Herald buff as well on Smithy. Now if he takes too much damage, he can even recall back faster.
Oh, that's not good for Kootenai. Finding it. Goodbye. Did not need to stay out there against 3 people of CLG. Punished. Kill goes through.
Absolutely. So really, CLG putting their stamp on this game. This is looking like a very, very clean game for them thus far. And on to the Rift Herald point, I have a kind of simplistic view of who should get it. Whoever can give the most influence over the game should take it. A lot of times that's not the AD carry because they're just kind of damage over time, or if they're just farming, or if they're just pushing. You'd rather have it on the guy that can have more mobility. In this particular case, I'd actually, if Darshan would have been there, I would have said give it to Fiora because he's going to go assassinate someone. But it's a game-by-game basis of whoever can have the most impact on the game. Here, CLG chose was Smithy, and I think, based on the situation, it was the correct choice.
Yeah, he's constantly the one with the team pushing. He's buffing the minions, making this turret, takes damage big. Just never finds the way in. Of course, Dark behind it can help prevent that. And again, sticking with a Black Shield is never going to be a good target. Aphromoo with Fate's Call from Stixay is never a good target, and the rest are tanky enough or not even there. Darshan, again, looking for a play to be made on this bot lane. The threat of solo fighting him is always risky enough to make hitting the turret pretty hard. Solo clears the minion wave away, and this is always kind of difficult in melee versus melee matchups. If you can't straight turret dive him, it's often hard to do any turret damage at all.
Yeah, very true. You basically have to wait on your minions to get little tiny bits of damage on. Though luckily for CLG, they have pressure in the 4-4 side of their split push, as well as the 1-1 side of their split push, so they're going to come out on top either way.
Yeah. Very few options Echo Fox have. Their engaged tools are Big's Alistair and Grigny's Elise, and so far CLG have played around them properly enough that there really haven't been easy openings.
Yeah, we can talk a lot about how Echo Fox would be an inexperienced team, or how they're playing with substitutes, or how CLG is playing very cleanly, but like, Echo Fox hasn't had many real opportunities to counterplay. As soon as they lost the mid lane, as well as being out lane swapped, it has just been super clean execution from CLG. It's not like we're seeing these big movements. Oh man, if they would have done this, it would have easily stopped this. CLG is just moving really quickly and cleanly.
Yeah, when Golden Glue can't hold up to Huhi and the 3 can't ever be engaged upon because they're too tanky or immune to it, you just sit there and cry a little bit and hope you can find another way in, which means Echo Fox, honestly, need to attack parts of the map that aren't the 3. Like, somehow just lose your top turret and have Grigny try to kill off Darshan. He showed up once, made Darshan flash away. Well, now Flash is down for 12 more seconds, but, you know, for the last 4.5 minutes, maybe he could have tried that. You know, maybe somehow you can kill Huhi despite Valkyrie, I don't know, but Echo Fox have been matching CLG, and, well, when they're bigger than you, matching doesn't work very well.
Look at the ward coverage they have as well. Just seeing what Fox can see versus seeing what CLG sees is just a massive difference.
I mean, C's even in the name, chat, so of course they can.
Well, right now, they don't even know where Darshan is while there's a push going on in the other lane. So they have to be so afraid.
And another turret goes down. That was to very slow minion chip damage there, but that was Darshan's doing on that one, despite not getting a post-game credit for that. It's okay, we all know in our hearts what he did. 9.4 thousand gold lead for Counter Logic Gaming. Again, only 2K of that is champion kill, so it's still just their lane control. They've given up 1 turret because that's a foregone conclusion in a lane swap game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now on for turret number 6. Just clean back and forth here from CLG. And taking Big out of the fight with just a little bit of poke. A Corki that gets ahead in the mid lane. This is one of the reasons it has become a nearly permanent ban fixture in Korea, if not the most picked mid laner in the last week of LCK play. And it's making its way over to the North American LCS as well.
There's the flash engage, but Huhi gets a black shield before Pulverize can land, so all is well. Big nearly goes down, but it's enough to knock the turret at the very least. Under 100 health left, but now Darshan, ooh, with the flash, but still he's going to be okay. And they knock down another turret, 6-1 in that scoreline. CLG going to get away pretty safely. And as you talk about mid lane Corki, there's one other thing I want to bring up because I love item builds. Triforce into Rapid Fire Cannon on Huhi is the most uncounter-playable turret killing build you can get, because you just get to Triforce and Energize hit something from outside of turret range.
Yes.
And just be annoying. It's not really DPS.
And then outside of that, you're poking them down.
Right.
So you have all this opportunity to get the poke down outside of the turret, which could maybe back them away and let you actually auto-attack it from within turret range. But even if the poke hasn't landed yet, you still get that one shot in from outside turret range that does more damage than really any other shot could, because you're using both your item active.
Exactly, yeah. Huhi's attack damage before he bought this pickaxe was 125. Like, it's less than Janna shielding herself at level, like, 7, right? Like, but yeah, he just does a bunch of base damages and never gets hit for it. And with CLG playing this way, with them this far ahead, they don't need DPS optimal item builds. They just need ways to further their pushing, which is exactly what they're doing. I think it's very smart to build this way, at least in this game. Not maybe every game, but in this one, absolutely. And it's little choices that are continuing to push CLG ahead. Just even in item build, they've optimized this. Banshee's Veil already done for Xmithie, so now he can't be pulverized like ever.
Like, who's Rek'Sai builds a Banshee's Veil right away? But at the same time, he's the one front line for this team, and getting the spell block on Echo Fox, who is a very skill shot reliant team, is super important. They have played this strategy. They're so good at this. CLG is a unique North American team in the way they play. And I think it gives them a lot of wins, just just based off the surprise factor sometimes. It's a unique experience. Unless you're scrimming against CLG, you can't prepare for this play style in North America.
Exactly. They're better at this style than you are playing against this style. Whether it's theoretically optimal or not doesn't really matter because you get to the game and they're just going to execute better than you're going to execute the counters. And CLG looking poised to be 3-2 and tied for second place if they can close this game out here. 6A in the top lane, the rest of the team nearby in that jungle. Huhi and Darshan more or less left alone in their various solo lanes. And now we're only 24 minutes in, and the only things that CLG can take are Baron and inhibitor turrets, both of which are fairly hard to take.
Yeah.
And so now comes the next execution hurdle for the rest of CLG.
He unboarded early, but at least his Bansheesville blocked the stun. So
Neither player was CC'd.
there's that.
Both due to Xmithy.
Xmithy has full control. He's just letting him know, I could have knocked you up.
Sending a message.
I just didn't.
Yeah. I'm more than just a shark fin, bro. A big void monster. Banner of Command there for Aftermoo. Puts it into the mid lane, which will make this take a while to wave clear. Golden Glue can barely do it himself.
Yeah.
You can still execute with Relic Shield stacks, though. And here comes the play for Baron itself. Darshan still in the bot lane. Huhi now roaming across. They've taken long enough to remove all the wards, but Blue Trinket, of course, can still put one in.
Yeah, it's really difficult to bait a Baron or because of the blue trinkets nowadays, and you can actually see CLG pulls off this. It's only 24 minutes in. Despite the 10,000 plus gold lead CLG has at 24 minutes, because Echo Fox has Victor, it's really hard to get a brute force push up a lane because Victor can wave clear with one spell. So it might take a little longer for CLG to do this, just because of the team compositions and because Echo Fox has gone for 3 blue trinkets, which allows them to very easily check Baron, even if they don't have ward control in their own jungle.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, CLG, you saw they theoretically had the opportunity to just say, you know what, Smite fight. Let's just finish Baron anyway, right on top of you guys. Ooh, Smithy wins the Smite War. Maybe a portent of things to come, but
that could have been a Baron Smite
That
War.
could have been Baron. That could have been the game right there for CLG. But
Not quite.
Yeah, no. So CLG played the more risk-averse choice of they could have gone for the Baron 5v5 and hoped they won the Smite War and the Rend War, which they likely would have, but said, you know what, we'll just try again. 2 of your blue triggers are now on cooldown. We did some damage, we stole your Rend. Let's try again one more time. Smithy does have Smite. 6A, of course, does have Rend.
It's pretty dangerous. They take a lot of damage on here because Xmithy's gone for a magic resist heavy build, and they have no other tanks to take the damage from Baron, so every time they start it, they're going to take half of Xmithy's health. They're hoping that they actually get a fight somewhere in the jungle and they can take a Baron and not worry about a fight.
Yeah.
Because they do have the Callista to technically secure the Baron from about 2,000 health.
Yeah. But right now, CLG just stacking up neutral objectives, taking what farm they can, taking the monsters away. The gold lead stagnating at 10,000 right now. Next Dragon up in 130 will also be somewhat important. It'll give them move speed. And I was going to say, CLG are just trying to trade Echo Fox in. Yeah, we do Baron when we show up, whenever we disappear off the map. But of course, with blue trinkets, they can check. And so it's not easy for CLG just to strictly bait it. They would have to bait it, get the blue trinket out, clear the ward, then bait it again, and then help Echo Fox face checks in. And that's just not a very likely scenario, so.
There is one tweak to CLG right now that I would like to see them make, and it's a pattern I've been seeing ever since the cooldown was increased on the blue trinket and the yellow trinket was buffed a little bit for the late game. Is just when you're ahead, have 1 or 2 guys still sitting on yellow trinket. Get more wards deep in the opponent jungle, since then when Echo Fox walks through, since they've gone so heavily in the blue trinkets, it'll be hard for them to sweep and you'll actually see them. Whereas right now, CLG is putting down deep blue trinket wards and they're immediately cleared. So their advanced vision is very easily taken out.
Yeah.
Whereas if they just had yellow trinkets, they clearly have the power to just move in and put wards wherever they want.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if they had some more permanence.
I totally agree. Also tweaks CLG can have is, instead of baiting Baron like inside the river, you show up like this area, which is the range of blue trinket into Baron pit. And you say, hey, we could be doing Baron. They walk up to blue trinket. Surprise! Smithy's right there.
Either way, it's very unlikely that CLG loses for any of these reasons.
True. Echo Fox could pull a reverse Echo Fox, though. This was how much
It's
they were
true,
at
actually.
Team Liquid.
They've been here. They got him right where they want.
They've firsthand known how to win this game, so.
Echo Fox learned last week. It's like, well, 10,000 gold lead, near perfect game. Yeah, that's a great way to start if you're on the losing side of that.
So Dragon has respawned, but Counterlogic Gaming sweeping away all the wards, and all the blue trinkets are down, so there are no safe ways to get vision. Aftermoo is already on zoning duty. You can see Echo Fox running around the long way, but Rend is still stacking up.
That's a scout. They have a lot of spears in there.
This would be almost impossible, and there we go. Smite's down to 650, and then the pickup. Darshan now overextends into solo. He did not need to fight that hard. Gave away a kill, but CLG got the Baron.
Yeah, Darshan got a little impatient there. So much time spent against solo. Maybe he was hoping to draw a collapse while the Baron was happening and win a fight in the chaos. In reality, though, it will just delay COD's ability to 4-1 with the Baron buff, and really, really hampered, actually, because Darshan won't have Baron-empowered minions in his split pushing anymore.
I mean, you see... Oh, that was a perfect pillar.
Yep.
He thought he could win. He was so low, but he healed too much. Thanks.
One audience guy encouraging
Yelled,
Freak.
I got it, freak.
I disapprove.
That's interesting after you heard that one. Acknowledgement of just getting it.
So it wasn't like it was a laugh or anything.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
yeah, I
he
got
didn't
it.
think it was funny or groan-worthy. He just wanted me to know that he understood that I made a joke, and it was not worthy of his laughter.
It might be just like a subtle way of telling you to stop. You're like, yeah, I got it. I got it, freak. Don't explain it further. Yes, he's alone. His name is Solo.
Yeah, his name
and
is...
he was so low.
Yeah. I'm making sure that you got it.
I got it.
Okay. We're in a good spot here. You know what he was missing? Who he didn't say body him. He needed better shot calling.
You officially killed the meme. Congratulations.
But Baron buff is on. CLG Darshan has respawned, and we are ready for Counter Logic Gaming to make their push happen. They've got the boost speed from Dragon 3. They picked that up just a little bit ago. And they're ready to push in. So Darshan splitting in the top lane. He still has flash. He didn't burn that on the escape last time around. So full power, can fight solo.
Yeah, and they're trying to basically make it so Golden Glue can't clear all the minions by himself. Solo has poor wave clear. Keith has poor wave clear on super minions. So it is a 3-waved push here. A little bit difficult, though. And they're having to ad-lib a little bit because Darshan doesn't have Baron-empowered minions, which is why they had X-Smithy up there actually to empower his minions. Yep. Even solo, they're not getting a huge amount of damage down onto these inhibitor turrets.
He actually trades poke with Golden Glue. Gold managed to land the EQ combo despite a QR back from the Corki, so both losing some health. And they just slowly do some damage with this empowered cannon minion. Afro could actually promote it, and then it wouldn't take magic damage anymore, and it would further increase its damage output. So far hasn't happened. Stixxay still looking for these little siege plays against Keith. You can see the damage they can get is quite nice. And as long as Black Shield is on, they can slowly whittle this turret down. That is making progress, but I don't know if turrets will die before Baron time's out.
Yeah. If COD doesn't get turrets on this push, the game would begin to get concerning. But they did finally break open the base, which is exactly what they needed to happen.
Yep. Again, they watched Echo Fox's Team Liquid. They know these games can sometimes be closer than you expect, so taking a risk-averse style, they've knocked down one of the inhib turrets. They're going to try again down here. Once again, Black Shield on Stixxay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 auto attacks on the turret. Black Shield times out. We'll try again later. Smithy forced to get away, and now Darshan also in a bit of a 1v2. Flashes. And he will dodge to Cocoon thanks to it. CLG can try again next wave. Darshan does have some life steal, but now getting pillared off. Has to buy a bit more time. Stixxay once again getting away from the combos. And a bind, long range, and a Keith, but he's far enough away to be safe.
Yeah, Baron buff is gone, though, and they still don't even get an inhibitor clean off of this push. Maybe this will end up being a 4-5 Dragon Stack game for CLG.
A bit risky for Darshan, who is missing his ultimate as well as his flash. That could be him dying. Stixxay forced to QS, has to get away, but Smithy rejoins the top lane. Now Grigny's in a bad spot. Darshan can't quite get the kill and is now also out of mana, so will be harder for him to execute anyone else in this fight.
And it's very important that CLG keeps the pressure up right now because they know they have so many people low that can't join the fight, but they do have home guard bonus coming back from the base, which is why Grigny is trying to do here. Finally, the inhibitor goes down.
And they've still got to be careful though. CLG again out of mana. Solo got his ulti back up. Now Smithy rejoining this one, but Grigny healthy enough to defend. And now they pick up big. They managed to blow through the ulti cooldown and still get through that one. Bottom lane inhibitor now also a target, and CLG just withstanding the damage well enough to not be really afraid here. Flash knockup. They really wanted to this one. Grigny is going to go down. Stixxay gets that kill. 7-2 in this one. And Echo Fox running away. Darshan recalled, TP'd back in. 2 inhibs down. The minions are onside the base already, so Nexus turret number 1 is gone. Solo now going to be attacked as Nexus turret number 2 going to go as well, and CLG will close this one out. 33 minutes the game time. They should not be stopped here as they continue to fight for a couple more seconds, but that will be the game. CLG 3-2 and tied in second place.
And honestly, even though this was a 33-minute game, CLG played very clean throughout, only suffering 2 deaths. Darshan on a little bit of over-aggression in a split push, and Aphromoo a little bit too ambitious in one of the early team fights. Overall, a quality win for CLG, who now moves for 3-2, and if they can win again on Saturday, would finally be showing some consistency. But as of now, it continues the trend of win, loss, win, loss, win.
We'll see what they can do tomorrow. Counterlogic Gaming, historically known as the kings of lane swap in North America. And this was another game where you sort of saw that. Echo Fox thought maybe we can push bot lane tier 2. CLG actually knew, you know what, we actually can respawn in time. Don't even need to recall Darshan. He can just build a freeze and get ahead of Solo, which he was the entire game, and still defend that turret. And that turret never went down. So that trade never hurt CLG in any meaningful way. Another just small choice that they made. The second round of it, top lane push, well, that was defended because Huhi had lane advantage and roamed first before Golden Glue could. So bot lane outer died. And these snowball advantages just kept happening, and CLG always one step ahead, always making the right choice sooner.
Yeah.
Just kept growing.
And then also just a straight up beatdown in the mid lane. Huhi versus Golden Glue.
Yeah.
40 CS early on in the game, and the turret pretty much on his own. See Golden Glue taking the loss pretty hard afterwards. And it's going to be a question of consistency. When you think back in this game, it, like you said, looks all so simple. The lane swapping team versus the inexperienced competitive team. What is the biggest difference between the basically
Those two
dynamic
teams.
queue and pro
Yeah.
play in its lane swapping? It happens in pretty much every game.
And like never in, you know, your
Yeah.
regular ranked games. So.
You need experience and hours against that stuff to be able to deal with it.
Yep. And CLG kept their major shot callers, of course, throughout the season. Afremu and formerly Zion Spartan, Darshan are the two most vocal macro players. We heard Matt say, you know, shot calling is misunderstood, everyone's involved, but as far as the two guys pitching in the most, those guys have been around now for a very long time, and you know, that crown didn't go anywhere. Those two heads are still in the game.
There's been so much discussion about shot calling lately that everyone kind of has their own opinion. I actually think it's interesting how teams are now delving deeper into how they themselves do communication.
Right.
And the truth of it is every team and every player is going to be different. You have certain styles where you have a very demanding shot caller, and other styles where you kind of share the burden. There is no book on shot calling for League of Legends, so please continue to talk about and discuss. I like it.
It's very exciting, very interesting, and it's always fun to see how these teams bring it out on the Rift. But that was the game for us. CLG took that one down. And for more on that, we're going to head down to the stage for a word of the top laner.
Yes, we are, Freak. Rivington here, joined by Darshan of CLG after taking out Echo Fox in a fantastic game. In a feature previously, you may not have seen it, Afremu was kind of talking about early game problems, and pretty much everything before the fight phase needed some shoring up. What were the chats over the past week to kind of get that core value down and shore up the early game for CLG?
I don't think we had that many problems with the early game, but when you have two new players, especially in like mid and AD carry, they got to learn a lot of things about like their early game, and we've been working on that a lot, kind of just like getting everyone on the same page, and I think that's been helping out a lot with how we play as a team, and we've just been like focusing on a lot of the basics.
And actually, I want to ask you, what is the kind of the dynamic of that team now? Pole belts are out, Doubleist not on the team anymore. How does CLG kind of still work the same way, or are you guys finding a new dynamic with these new players?
I think it's like a lot of the same dynamic. Everyone communicates, everyone has like ideas, and Afro is like definitely like a lot of the person like making sure the plan is going smoothly. But I think we just all have an idea of how to win the game as a team. It's not. All right, let's wait a second. All right. Yeah. It's everyone has an idea of how the plan's working, and so it's not like one person knows everything. We all kind of understand the plan, but Afro is definitely making sure everything's running smoothly.
All right, and I got to ask, final question for you. There's a lot of yelling. You changed your name from Zion Spartan to Darshan. Why the change?
I just wanted something that was more personal. I feel like when I first made my name, Zion Spartan, I didn't really connect with it, and a lot of like the screen names people make is, oh, this is like different, this isn't me, this is like someone else, and I'm like, I'm not anyone else other than Darshan, so decided to go with that name.
Is it weird when your teacher still calls you Zion Spartan?
Well, I don't have a teacher anymore. So.
All right, man. Congratulations on the game. Thanks for the interview, and congrats on the win. Right now, we're going to throw it to the analyst desk to break down a little more of that game.
Thank you very much, Riv. I've got Kobe here to help me break down this early game. But this really was a game that was the story of experience, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of touched on by Freak and Jad there in the post game and throughout the game in general. But we really saw a stark contrast between a team that had experience on the LCS stage playing in these lane swaps versus Fox, a bunch of guys ragtag thrown together, not full roster, some guys from Challenger, other guys from solo queue, and it really did paint a very stark contrast.
And as you did mention, they did touch on it there. It's about, the team reacting to things as they come up in game and having those instant decisions being made and easily being able to follow through with them. CLG, they were not put off by Echo Fox being one wave ahead, and they were able to make the on-the-fly decision. You know what? They don't have enough damage yet. They're level 2 and 3 right now. They won't be able to fully take this turret. They're just going to get some damage on it. So what we'll do is make an on-the-fly decision to leave Darshan up in the top lane, get Darshan this early experience advantage, this small gold advantage, and you know what happens. We've seen it so many times, especially when Darshan is up against a challenger top laner. If he gets any sort of little advantage, he'll split push you all the way into the base. He'll get a huge advantage for the team. You know, he got a huge CS advantage. He had a lot of pressure advantage. He did make that one mistake at the inhibitor turret dying and diving, but besides that, you know, there was so much pressure, you know, from that side, and they got a pretty big advantage by doing that. CLG's lane swap was really good this game. The other side effect was that they were able to leave Huhi on this Corki matchup where he's playing super aggressive on Corki. They opened up Huhi to be able to Valkyrie forward and go for these trades with Victor that normally you can't when you can't see the enemy jungler, you know, because they're pressuring hard, because they're lane swapping. So they opened up that 1 versus 1 to get that giant CS lead too.
Yeah, there's definitely that element too then on Fox's side. It was a great reaction from CLG, but you can kind of see it in the decision making from Echo Fox there. We have this extra wave. We, you know, there's that impetus, there's that desire. Yeah, let's go. We can get a second turret, and you know, from their point of view, that's how they're going to create their lead. It's just that CLG responding properly, as you mentioned, getting that XP advantage more than anything for Darshan. We saw level 5 to level 3, 31 to 5 CS, and that's where too you kind of call into question some decision making on Fox now that they're on the back foot. Grigney not going top and even pressuring Darshan out of that lane to relieve pressure on Solo in that straight 1v1 as Darshan is at their inner turret.
And you know that Darshan doesn't have any wards because this is his first push. He never recalled. So you know all he has is one trinket ward that you could get around since he's so far up. The only thing there is that a level 5 Fiora is pretty scary to fight in a minion wave if you only have a level 3 Trundle on your side. So you get a little dicey, you're like, hey, should I go gank that? I don't want to get 2v1'd and get embarrassed. But besides that, there were other like mechanical plays that CLG also had.
Yeah, we have a clip that we're going to show real quickly. In the top lane, Keith overextending a little bit for his own good here on the Ezreal as Afromu and Stixxay come up to snag the
kill.
And
this is a kind of a combination. I just wanted to show this again because it was so good by CLG. Stixxay stacks up, Ren stacks in the minions also, then is able to get the attack off for the slow onto Keith, then Afromu with that binding and then flashing to cancel the cast time of the binding so he can't react. There's just so good right there from CLG, but it also was set up because Fox, they had no vision. They were just trying to react to this lane swap, and they're like, oh, we push this top side now with our Ezreal. Ezreal's kind of safe, right? He has Arcane Shift, but then they got
well, and that clip too is an example of how on the micro mechanical level, if CLG executes on their macro play, on that decision to go top, then it just creates an even larger discrepancy between the two teams, right? You've got one team that thinks they're making the right decision early, CLG responding in kind with the proper response, and then executing on top of that just slightly better mechanically starts to balloon this gold lead out of control. Net CLG the kill. Solid pickup for them. Now don't touch that browser because we've got our final game of the day coming up with the undefeated Immortals out to extend their winning streak when they take on the Renegades. We'll be right back.
Go big or go home. Yep, go big or go home. Go hard. Go big, go hard.
Good luck, guys.
Go big, go hard. Good luck. Alright, we're first.
And now the push in towards Stixxay. There's the Arcane Shift. The point blank flash binding.
Wait, you guys have double point. You got it. Jake, smite 2, smite 2, smite 2.
Okay, for now.
Nice.
Nice.
Alright, it's gonna
really afraid here. Flash knockup. They really wanted into this one. Grigney is going to go down. Stixxay gets that kill. 7-2 in this one. CLG 3-2 and tied in second place.